Churchill County was settled by the 1860s as ranchers, a few farmers, and businessmen continued to come to the area. When Mike and Eliza Fallon sold their ranch in 1896, the post office they established here remained, leaving their name behind as the town's legacy. Jim Richards' mercantile store, located at the crossroads of soon-to-be Main Street and Williams Avenue, became the hub of the growing community. Soon, many other businesses opened along this crossroads, and on September 18, 1908, the citizens of Fallon voted to incorporate their city. One of the many businesses in town was operated by Frank Woodliff. He and his wife Jessie moved to Fallon from Virginia City in 1903. Since construction on the Newlands project was in full swing, Frank hoped the active little town would support his merchandising business. He opened the Woodliff Novelty Store on Main Street soon after his arrival. Novelty store was a common word in those days, which meant a store that sold just about anything there was to sell. A little bit of everything. It is reported that the Woodliff store building was the first to have a unique feature, a special bump-out bay window at the front of the store where goods could be displayed to shoppers. While the new business struggled to build a customer base in the store at the front of the building, Frank, his wife, daughter, and son lived in one small room in the back. That's right, 4 people lived in this room in the back of the store. It is hard to imagine this when compared to the spacious homes most of us occupy today. Eventually, the business grew large enough that the family could move to a home in town. The Woodliff Novelty Store building has moved around Fallon a few times during its years and has seen many customers come through its doors. By the 1980s, the building was no longer in use, and the Woodliff family, still involved in business activities all these years later, donated its structure to the Churchill County Museum and Archives. These photographs show the building being moved from its last site on Carson Street, north on Carson to Williams Avenue, east on Williams to Main Street, and then south on Main to its final resting place on the museum's grounds. Once in place, water lines were run for the trees, and work began to restore the outside and inside of the building. The new Woodliff store exhibit had its grand opening on June 9, 1984. What did customers see when they stepped inside the front door of the store back in the early 1900s? This old photo shows a larger merchandise store in Fallon, but the Woodliff store would have looked similar. There would have been a lot of bulk items in large bags and barrels around the room. Food staples such as flour, beans, and rice were popular, as well as coffee beans for grinding, a cabbage slicer, spices and canned goods, and a few games thrown in for good measure. Some items were stocked that were considered necessities by miners and others living in or near a frontier town, but it was also a place for women to buy handwork supplies, household cleaning items like this rug beater, or men's or women's glasses, and some types of shoes and clothing. And if you needed nails and hardware, chances are the Novelty store had those in stock for you too. A carving of a wooden Indian on the sidewalk outside a place of business was designed to capture the attention of men walking by, informing them that tobacco was sold inside. Since the average cigar smoker in America in the late 1800s could not read, the statue served as advertising. Why a carved Native American figure? The link between tobacco and Native American tribes has been documented from the time of the ancient Mayan civilizations. This carving in the museum's exhibit came from a casino in Winnemucca, Nevada. It's interesting to imagine what it was like for customers purchasing items in the Woodliff store. Today, customers come into a store, grab a shopping cart, and go. Not so in stores of long ago. Stores had long front counters behind which the employees stood. Customers could see some of the items for sale, but others were stored out of sight. The storekeeper was handed a list of supplies the customer needed, and he or she set about filling the order. Items were put off shelves and packaged by the storekeeper. Payment was either, quote, on credit, quote, or made in cash. In hard times, the barter system may be used as well. Shopping for needed items was one reason to stop in at the local mercantile store, and picking up mail was another. Often the local postmaster or postmistress kept the post office boxes in their place of business. Customers would come to the store often to check their mail. The museum's Woodliff store display includes post office boxes from the little town of Hazen, the only other town in Churchill County. Visitors would have passed through Hazen traveling on Highway 50 between Fallon and Fernley. Believe it or not, this tiny burg was a bustling community in the early 1900s when construction of the Newlands project began. Hazen's railroad depot received wagon loads of supplies for the construction project, and train passengers were able to stay overnight in the Palace Hotel. Since there was no rural mail delivery in Hazen until the 1970s, local residents used the post office boxes displayed in the Woodliff store for many years. Sometimes museum staff members are asked how we were able to fill the shelves of the Woodliff store with so many historical items. Most of the items were donated to the Churchill County Museum by Muncie and Harvey Cohoss, who with their father operated the Cohoss store in downtown Fallon for many years. Instead of discarding their old inventory if it did not sell, the father and his son saved the items by storing them in their basement. When it came time to close the store and to clean out the building, there were a lot of, quote, antiques that came out of storage. Many of those items were donated to the Churchill County Museum and make up a large part of the Woodliff store exhibit on display today. The Woodliff Novelty Store has found a permanent home on the grounds of the Churchill County Museum and Archives. The building is a testament to the hard work that it took to make a business profitable in the town of Fallon during its early years.